This is Focus with Jack Caudill.
Good evening, I'm Jack Caudill and welcome to this month's edition of Focus. This month we're going to sit down and visit for a half hour with Rapid City Mayor Jason Salamun. And thank you for coming up, appreciate that. Mayor Salamun, elected to a 4-year term back in June of 2023, is approaching the halfway mark of that term. He is an Air Force veteran, worked at Black Hills Federal Credit Union, was a pastor at Fountain Springs Church, also served on the city council before his election to mayor. Again, thank you for coming up, joining us today. Just about halfway through that 4-year term now. Is the job what you expected it to be at this point?
Well, it's an off-road adventure every day. So, you know, you will have the highest of highs and the lowest of lows and everything in between. I expected that, but you know, when you're riding it, when you're in the middle of that, in some of the most explosive growth we've seen in our city's history, at this kind of political climate that we have, it's an interesting time. So in some ways it's better than I thought it would be. In other ways it's tougher than you can expect. It's very difficult to please everybody. You have to kind of get rid of that right away and just try to do the best thing in the interest of Rapid City.
Looking at how the city's doing right now economically, how's the city doing? Sales tax revenues up about 3.5% from the first quarter of last year compared to the first quarter of this year. Economically, how's the city doing? How's the city sitting at this point?
You know, strong. Currently, we're outperforming the state in terms of sales tax revenue. I think that part of it is good. We do need to continue to bring in more high-paying jobs. We do have a discrepancy, in my opinion, between the average cost of a house, which is say $315,000 or so, and the average annual salary. I think last I saw was about $66,000, maybe give or take. You want to bring this number up, this household number up, and this number down in terms of housing. I think that would be big for us. But we have some upcoming announcements that I think are going to be very exciting for Rapid City, some possibilities for our community that can really take us to the next level. We have seen positive growth and momentum in terms of revenue. But at the same time, we've seen, you know, housing market is always kind of volatile right now, depending on interest rates and whether people are building or not. And so we had a little dip in the housing, new housing being built, but we're seeing permits go back up. It's always an interesting wave. It follows some of the national trends, but it also, there's a lot of things to be proud of in Rapid City. When you're outperforming the state in terms of sales tax revenue, it tells you people are coming here to spend money. That's really good. People have more disposable income. In fact, Jack, we get 3.9 million visitors a year each, you know, coming through this community and in the Black Hills. That is something to take advantage of, and it really helps relieve the tax burden off our citizens and help us enjoy better quality of life.
Now, you talk about the discrepancy between the price of housing and what people are making.
Yeah.
Is that something the city can have an effect on?
Well, the city can, what we can do is be more responsive. So when we're talking about how we do permitting or how we do zoning and planning and those kind of efforts or engineering, we always have to look for better ways to be more responsive to make sure that we are doing our best to not be a hang up in terms of building new, you know, commercial buildings or housing or whatnot. In terms of jobs, well, there are things, if you incentivize growth, so we use TIFs obviously for incentives, those have to have a public benefit. One of the public benefits could be what kind of jobs or sales tax revenue do they bring in? That's one purpose. Another public benefit are what infrastructure does it bring in? So we can pick and choose what we choose to incentivize, whether it's affordable housing or whether it's something that's going to bring even more revenue to the city. What more revenue means more work, which means more employees. It's always a challenge. So how do you maximize your impact but minimize your waste and all those kind of things too? Those are always things that we're trying to balance.
Now, the city's been growing for a long time, but that pace has been picking up lately. Going to pick up more with the B-21 coming to town. How is Rapid City situated to deal with that growth that's on the way?
Well, I think the biggest challenge is going to be housing for us. I think that's true everywhere. It's certainly true here. We're going to continue to have to look at that. You know, the growth is going to happen naturally. I think growth is really a byproduct of strong roots. So I always say I want healthy growth, but for that you need strong roots. So let's just do the things that we do well and the growth will happen. Obviously the B-21 will bring in consistent growth for about 15 years for sure. That's how long that's going to be deployed and the personnel that are needed for that. But even beyond there, you're finding that a lot of people are looking at Rapid City as a really hot market, a great quality of life. We know this because people reach out and people are looking to invest in this community that never have before. So that's really important. And so the question is, which direction are we going to grow? Is it going to be healthy growth, meaning is it something that we can sustain? I think that's always a big one, and not just Rapid City, but the whole Black Hills area. I think you're seeing that, Box Elder, Somerset, Piedmont, Blackhawk, Spearfish, Hill City, Custer, all these great communities, Hot Springs as well. I think they have opportunities there that are unique because the Black Hills are awesome. And the more people find that out, it always starts with a visit. And you come and visit and you find out this is pretty great. I hear from military personnel who, when they first find out they're stationed at Ellsworth, they're like, oh no, But then they love it. And a lot of times when they retire, they want to come back here to retire. And that's a pretty cool thing.
Talking about that growth, how is the infrastructure in town set to keep up with that growth?
Pretty well. We have work to do, though. We have to prioritize those projects. One of the challenges we had is we use 58% of our second penny of our sales tax for infrastructure, where most cities use it 100% of that. And we tried to, through the Vision Fund changes, to try to make sure those are public projects so we can prioritize those. But I think if we prioritize the infrastructure needs, we need to make sure that new growth pays for new growth, and that the existing tax base can pay for the ongoing maintenance of roads. And so right now we're in a busy season where they're filling potholes left and right. You can call the city pothole line if you'd like. You can find that on our website. And making sure that we're doing our best to take care of the roads. There's always room for improvement. I think we're looking at more efficient ways to approach those items to make sure that we're getting the most bang for the buck for ongoing maintenance. But then we also have a way that we can pay for new growth, and that's by having new growth pay for new growth.
Now, you talk about the Vision Fund. We're in the middle of another Vision Fund round.
Yeah.
There's some pushback this year. The structure changed a little bit about how this was done. What was the idea behind that, and do you feel like some of the objections to the structure changes were addressed?
Well, the big idea was that the Vision Fund, which is really the actual original ordinance is called the Economic Development and Civic Improvements Fund. We happen to call it Vision 2020, then the Vision Fund. We've had various names for it. So I wanted to go back to the original intention. Does this have civic improvements, economic development? And the big idea behind the changes I made is I wanted to make sure that those funds were allocated towards public projects, city-owned assets, whether it's ball fields or parks or you name it, that it's city-owned assets, because the challenge was over the last 15 years, it drifted off course of its original mission, and tens of millions of dollars have gone to private entities, really good ones, by the way. There's nothing wrong with them. But the challenge is you're neglecting the needs that you have through the city with the taxpayer money. And I wanted to make sure the taxpayer funds apply to taxpayer benefits. And so the changes we made were to really require that they be city assets, whatever the Vision Funds are paid for. And then we could have, various, ways of allocating those funds. The traditional citizen committee, which we're wrapping up with right now, to doing things like a comprehensive plan, vision projects. That we have a 10-year comprehensive plan, and that'll wrap up later this summer. And then we can identify projects that align with that 10-year plan to actually get them done. That'll make sure those are civic improvements, promote economic development, quality of life, and as well as the Strategic Growth Revolving Fund. What that fund is for proactive development. So if we want to grow in a certain area, the city usually grows wherever the developers say to grow because they're the ones taking the risk. But other communities, they're able to build road, water, sewer in a direction and say, grow here. We actually allocated some funds as seed money for it to really start that process. So I think that's going to be important for us to manage the growth moving forward.
Now, you've got your list of applicants, more applicants and more requests for money than there is money in projects available. Do the projects that are there, do they fit more with the direction you're wanting this to go?
Absolutely. I saw the list of projects, and I think all of them are worthwhile. The challenge is you always have, and this is true every Vision Fund round, you always have more requests than you have funds available. So the Citizen Committee, which is about to present to the City Council in June, their recommendations, are really going through this and saying, what's the best use of this money? And they come from all walks of life, all backgrounds, all wards of the city, and they will make that recommendation. I'm very curious to see what they come up with. I'm going to find that out soon. And then ultimately it's the City Council's decision. but it's going to be a big deal. And personally, I love to see more youth activities, the sports complex activities, fields, park improvements, but we also have some basic things on there like a maintenance facility or camera systems or fire station improvements and things like that. You even have things like Storybook Island with concession stands or the bocce ball courts for the Special Olympics, the swim center. There's a lot of really diverse and interesting projects that I think are all worthwhile, but you can't fund them all right away. And so that's really, it's the same story every vision round. The same is true this year.
All right, we got to take a break. We'll continue our conversation with Rapid City Mayor Jason Salamun when we continue with this month's edition of Focus. I'm Jack Caudill. Welcome back to this month's edition of Focus. This month we are talking to Rapid City Mayor Jason Salamun. The homeless situation in the city is one that continues. No easy answers to that. As you look at it, what is the city's role in that situation?
Well, the city's role, first of all, we have to enforce the law, make sure this is a safe place for everybody, including our homeless population. So the challenge is that we do quite a bit, actually, with the homeless population. I always have to remind people of this. What does the city do? Well, we invest in the care campus. We partner with the county on the care campus for those who are dealing with intoxication. We provide nearly $2 million a year to crisis services. So whether that's Cornerstone Rescue Mission, Wavy, case management through Great Plains Tribal Health and Volunteers of America. We partner with Journey On. We're a major part of that. We work on the Ignite program, not to mention our mobile medic program through our fire department, as well as our quality of life unit and street crimes unit with the police department. Fact is, I think we're doing more than any other community. The question is it working? And I think that's a big thing. And the bigger question is, what should the community do? I have some deep concerns about the public safety aspect of the homeless population. Quite frankly, we've had 4 murders in Rapid City this year, 4 homicides in Rapid City city limits. 2 of those have been those who are experiencing homelessness, and it's always been done by another homeless individual. And that safety aspect, because the homeless population are now younger, more able-bodied men, and they're often victimizing other homeless people who are just trying to get by. So that when you talk about the homeless population, there are people with different reasons to be there. There's a lot of services that if you are down on your luck, you lost a job, health issues, whatever, if you need help, there is help available. Lots of services available to you. That's not where our problem is. We're good there. What we need help with and what we got to do is address those who do not want the help and instead choose to prey on others. And that's a big problem. So we have upped our enforcement downtown to make sure we have greater police presence, frankly, due to some of the violence that we've seen among that population. But we want the general community to be safe. We want the homeless people to be safe. We want to make sure they get to shelters. There are shelters available. Get them there. They just often choose not to. And Jack, I think one of the biggest things we have to do as a community is decide not to enable self-destructive behaviors. If you know anybody in your life, and I have people in my life who are choosing a self-destructive path, you do not want to enable that behavior. You want to love them enough to not enable it. And I think things like when you're giving to panhandlers, the challenge there is, they need $7 a day to get the vodka they need for the day. They just have to panhandle for that in the morning, go get it, and then it wreaks havoc the rest of the day. But their life expectancy is way low because of the self-destructive lifestyle. I want better for people for that. I don't want people living on the streets, not just for the community, but for them as human beings. You want to see them have the dignity and respect they deserve. So I challenge the community to really step up, support organizations doing good work, don't enable poor behavior. If you have friends or family that are in those situations, work to get them help. We need better treatment options because frankly, we do not have a homeless issue as much as we have an addiction issue, especially alcohol. It's killing people. That is the main driver. You have some behavior health issues as well. The bulk of the challenges that we have are in that space. So the real enemy here are not the homeless, but it's actually going to be the thing that's controlling them. It's that addiction. And it's the thing that it hurts people of all walks of life, homeless or not. I find that that's the actual issue. And if we can continue to tackle that and agree, hey, this is killing people. We don't want that for people. We have to get better about that. And it's a community conversation, but I think they're great organizations working in that space. The city will continue to do the best that we can, but we can't do it alone. This is a community-wide issue that we will continue to address. I want to see homelessness reduced in our community. It's better for everybody. I don't want to be more attractive to outsiders either. I want people to be near the resources and love and support that will help them see it through. So there's a lot to say on that topic.
But no, one of those services, the Hope Center, closed down, and it has been kind of controversial over time, trying to find another spot for a service similar to that. What is the future of that? What are the options available?
Well, yeah, city, just as a reminder, to not shut the Hope Center down. That was almost 2 years ago now, maybe a year and a half ago. Well, there are other things. So whether you want to level up your life and partner with One Heart and see if you can get help there, there's church groups like Woyatan Lutheran and the ministries that go out of there. They often do a lot of day services. They're Volunteers of America that have a lot of services available to them. Cornerstone, of course, Rescue Mission has a lot available. The city approved respite care for the Cornerstone and Monument Health, not too far from these studios, and that's pretty controversial, but the city council approved that because they thought it was a good plan and a better use of that space to help people get back up on their feet. There's a lot that's happening. There's a lot of people stepping up to fill those gaps and in services. And the question is, how many services do you need? There's only so much money to go around. So the question I would ask, if you are donating money, donate to organizations doing good work. If they can't tell you how they're helping people level up out of their life, I would encourage you to look for an organization that does. And there are plenty of them. I don't have to advertise which ones are my favorite here today, but I would just say, do your homework. There are people doing good work in that space, and it's there if people want it.
Now, you talk about the 4 homicides this year, one of those very public downtown, not too long ago. What is the city doing to address that to make people feel like they are safe downtown?
So you're going to see a permanent presence downtown of foot patrols by police officers. So when you go downtown, you will see police officers, and it's already making a world of difference. I have downtown business owners the last month tell me this has made a world of difference. And there's so much concentration, and downtown is such a gem. I want everybody to feel safe downtown. Not just feel safe, I want them to be safe. So one of the things we're doing is we've upped our patrols downtown, and you will see them. So go say hi to them, thank them for walking. They're definitely getting their steps in, but they're kind of walking the beat, building relationships, and we're noticing great areas of improvement there. 2, there is a Vision Fund request to place cameras throughout the busy areas of our city, not facing people's houses, but in public spaces. That'll help deter crime and help us catch anybody who does anything wrong. And then we will also look at how do we light up things like the alleys and make improvements there. In fact, I just met with a group of downtown business owners to look at concepts and ideas to make it even stronger in that area, to make sure that everybody's safe. And just from all aspects of it, because downtown is such a jewel in our community. We will not give up downtown. It is our city. You should feel safe walking around downtown. My wife should feel safe walking around downtown. My kids, my grandmother. You got to remember, I have all generations of my family here as well. And it is really made a world of difference. And now we have all the visitors coming into town. We want them to be safe as well. So that's going to be a permanent move on our part. And then we, of course, changes our strategy because we have to allocate resources away from other areas to that. So now we have to look at other strategies, how to deal with other hot spots, because unfortunately, it's a fallen world. People still do terrible things at times, and we have to make sure that we hold them accountable and enforce the law here in Rapid City.
All right, we got to take another break. We'll continue our conversation with Rapid City Mayor Jason Salamun when we continue with this month's edition of Focus. Good evening, I'm Jack Caudill. Welcome back to this month's edition of Focus. We are talking to Rapid City Mayor Jason Salamun. At the latest Legal and Finance Committee, some ideas taken up for some restructuring of city government. What is the idea and what is the impetus behind that?
Well, the idea is to get the city to work more efficiently, effectively, and with greater accountability. So we have studied, of course, cities throughout the country. People are doing it well. We've looked at the things that are working great in Rapid City, and there are plenty that's working great, but there's definitely room for improvement. And one of the things I noticed is we were really operating in silos in many places where people would have their own HR person or their own IT person or doing their own thing that are really duplicating efforts done somewhere else. So instead, we're centralizing human resources, centralizing IT, centralizing how we maintain facilities, those sort of support functions to allow the specific departments, whether you're the parks department or whether you're the library, some other functions throughout the whole city, really operate together. Getting us moving in the same direction will pay big dividends for us down the road. So my big idea is that we reorganize in a way that is more efficient and effective, brings more accountability, because what we were doing, we're basically had 12 silos or 12 departments and everybody kind of doing their own thing underneath the umbrella of the city. They do have distinct features, but there are shared services that we can have. So instead of having a person here, person here, person here, you could have two people here, get rid of one position, or consolidate that into something else. It just allows us to be smarter, and that kind of comes from my business background, where you're looking for more efficient and better ways to do things. So I'm trying to apply some of those business principles to the city, but also understanding it's still public service. It's very different than a business. We're here to serve the citizens of Rapid City, but I want to make sure that we're being efficient with taxpayer resources and really maximizing the talent that we have.
Now, we talked a lot about the challenges. What in the city is going on that you feel really good about right now?
I feel really good about some of the development that's probably coming up. I think that we'll have some announcements hopefully in the near future, but when you hear stories about Liberty Land, for example, people don't think about that, how big that's going to be for our community. It's very legitimate. I'm very excited about that. The sports complex, I'm all in on that. I think if we can figure out the right way to pay for it without hurting the bank, I think that's going to be a big impact, because that draws multi-day tournaments and stays into our community from a 5-state region. It could be really big for our community and our local economy and our quality of life for our kids here. Really, my whole vision is that I want this to be where kids thrive and families flourish. Even if you don't have kids, you want to live where it's safe for them and where they're enjoying life, because that means we all win. So those are a couple of things. There are some requests I get all the time of certain stores to bring into town. Some aren't coming yet, but some might be. And so we're having those conversations. I get really excited about making some of those announcements. Those are some things coming up here that I think could be real game changers. Plus, Black Hills Energy is doing a big expansion of their power generation up off of Deadwood Avenue. That project is a bigger deal than people realize, and what the city can leverage off of that and the opportunities that's going to bring to the city and beyond Rapid City, but we're certainly going to make the most of it, is really big. So I want us to be a healthcare hub. We have the Monument Health continues to grow, expand, and improve. We have others like Sanford obviously coming into town, making a big splash. There are other folks looking into this region. You have to remember, Rapid City is a hub of a 5-state region. Sioux Falls is our sister city, but we're closer to Billings, Cheyenne, and Fort Collins than we are to Sioux Falls. We draw a circle around Rapid, and that's really a service area for us. I want healthcare to continue to be a strategic area, as well as manufacturing and other items as well. And leveraging School of Mines and Technology, Western Dakota Tech. We have amazing post-secondary options here. We have to develop workforce into the future, but it's all about improving the quality of life and opportunities for families.
All right, got time for one last quick thing. You're about halfway through this 4-year term. Are you thinking about a second term yet?
Maybe. You're going to run hard in the time that I have. By default, you kind of think there probably will be a second term, but I'm not ready to announce that.
All right, that'll do it. Jason Salamun, thanks for coming up. Thank you for joining us for this month's edition of Focus. Hope to see you again the first Sunday night of next month. Good night.